Welcome to Middle Math Academy, Rates Level Number 5. If this lesson is moving a little bit too fast or you're just looking for some more practice with rates, feel free to check out levels 1 through 4. Let's take a look at our learning targets. Our learning targets today are I can find the unit rate and unit cost, and I can solve real-world problems and explain my reasoning. Go ahead and rate yourself before the lesson 1 through 5. How confident do you feel about these learning targets? 1 being the least amount of confidence and 5 being the most amount of confidence. Once you've rated yourself on our learning targets, pause the video and complete our opening problem. As a reminder, this video will not go over every single problem. There will be parts that you just practice on your own. So please make sure that you're keeping up with the notes, you're writing what I write, and you're following along with the examples. That way, when you are practicing on your own, you feel confident. Our first note is a rate compares two quantities that have different units. And the beauty of this is you can always pause the video if I'm moving too fast. You really can go at your own pace. Our next note is a unit rate or unit cost has a denominator of 1. You may also see unit cost as listed as unit price. They're the same thing. To find the unit rate, we are going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So this is important to remember. If I have a fraction written like this fraction line means divide. So what this really means is 6 divided by 2, and 6 halves is equivalent to 3. Okay, our next note, when you divide, the denominator will be what you want one of. All right, so if we want miles per hour, 1 hour, when we're dividing, we'll put hours as our second number. All right, so when we are finding the rate, the first step we're going to do is divide to find the unit rate. So let's practice just that part. In example A. Example A says, if Kelly baked 21 cookies in 4 hours, how many cookies could she bake in 8 hours? All right, so I know this question is asking about hours. So when I'm dividing, I'm going to put hours as my denominator or my second number. And I'll do 21 cookies divided by 4 hours. And you might have to write kind of small here. So now we have 21 cookies divided by 4 hours. When we divide, it lets us know how many cookies Kelly can bake in 1 hour. So when I divide, I get 5 and 25 hundredths cookies per hour. Now, you could write 1 hour if you want, but sometimes we just leave it hour because there's no S on the end of it. That way we just know it's 1 hour. All right, so we completed our first step, dividing to find the unit rate. Our second step is we are going to multiply to find the rate. Because once we know how many cookies she can bake in 1 hour, we can multiply to figure out any amount of time. In this problem, we're looking for how many cookies after 8 hours. So I'm going to multiply my numerator and denominator by 8. And I get 42 cookies in 8 hours. Remember, pause if you need more time. You can really go at your own pace here. All right, let's move on to examples B and C. I'll do example B with you, and then I'm going to have you practice C on your own. Example B says, if 11 games are sold at $120, how much will 18 games cost? Okay, so we're going to try to figure out 18 games. And so that means we first need to figure out how much for one game. So when I divide, they're not always going to give it to you in the order you divide. So I know games will be my denominator, and I'll do $120 divided by 11 games. Now, today, if you get a decimal as your answer, we're rounding to the hundredths place, which is two numbers to the right of the decimal. So if I do 120 divided by 11, I know that my answer is either going to be 10.90 or 10.91. Okay, so it either stays the same or goes up one. It all depends on the number after the zero. And in this case, the number is a 9. So we're going to round up to 10.91 because that third number in the thousands place was 5 or higher. So make sure to listen to that again if you need some more review with rounding. But our unit cost is $10.91 per game. Our second step is to multiply to find the rate. We're trying to figure out how much 18 games will cost. So we're going to multiply our numerator and denominator by 18. And when you multiply, just a side note, make sure you plug in what we rounded to. So I'm going to plug in 10 and 91 hundredths times 18, and we'll get $196.38 for 18 games. Go ahead and pause the video and complete C on your own. Come back to the video once you finish C. All right, let's go over example C. Example C says, if Rupert drove 36 miles in 45 minutes at a constant rate, how far can he drive in 75 minutes? So this problem is asking us about minutes. So when I set up my division problem, I'm going to make minutes the second number or the denominator. So we should have 36 miles divided by 45 minutes. When I do 36 miles divided by 45 minutes, I get 8/10 miles per minute. So one of the most important things is setting up your division problem correctly. Think, what do you want one of? Think, what is the question asking about? That will be your second number. So now that we know it's 8/10 miles per minute, we can multiply that by 75 and we get 60 miles in 75 minutes. Pause the video, check your work, fix any mistakes, and then come back to the video when you're ready for page 2. All right, on page 2, it says round to the hundredths place if needed, show your work, and circle your answer. I'm going to do A with you and then have you complete the rest of the page on your own. A says, for every 24 tomatoes Maverick plants, he plants 7 peppers. At this rate, how many tomatoes will he plant if he plants 18 peppers? Okay, so if we want to figure out how much for 18 peppers, we first need to figure out how much for 1 pepper. So we'll do 24 tomatoes divided by 7 peppers. And when I plug this in my calculator, 24 divided by 7, I get this long number. So I know I'm going to the hundredths place. That's what the directions said. So it's either going to be 3.42 or 3.43. Because this third number is an 8, that's 5 or higher, that means I'm going to round to 3.43. So Maverick plants 3.43 or 3 43 hundredths tomatoes per 1 pepper. So we just completed step number 1, dividing to find the unit rate. The question was asking about peppers, so I put peppers as our second number when we divided. Step number 2, we're going to multiply to find the rate. We're going to multiply both of these numbers by 18. And 3 43/100 times 18 is 61 74/100 tomatoes for every 18 peppers. Go ahead and complete the rest of page 2. Come back to the video when you're ready for page 3. And don't forget to circle your answer. All right, on page number 3, go ahead and pause and complete problem A. Once you finish problem A, come back to the video. All right, problem A says 10 pounds of apples cost $3.50. At this rate, how much will 17 pounds of apples cost? So pounds of apples should be on our denominator when we divide. That's what the question's asking for. That's what we need to figure out one of first, our unit cost. So when we divide, we get 35 cents per pound of apples. Check your work. Make sure you got that for our unit cost. Now that we know how much it costs for 1 pound, we can multiply by 17 to get $5.95 for 17 pounds of apples. Pause the video, check your work for problem A. And go ahead and complete the rest of page 3. Come back to the video once you're done with page 3. All right, page 4. Please go ahead and pause the video, complete problem A on page 4, only the first problem. Once you finish A, come back to the video. All right, let's check our work for problem A. Then you're going to work on page 4 and 5 on your own. Problem A says, at Smoothie Express, 3 smoothies contain 16 cups of fruit. At this rate, how many cups of fruit would be needed for 5 smoothies? So the first thing I'm going to do is find the unit rate. So since the question's asking about smoothies, I'm going to make smoothies my second number. 16 cups of fruit divided by 3 smoothies gives us 5.33 cups of fruit. Okay, and so I rounded to the hundredths place. Now that we know how many cups of fruit are in one smoothie, I can multiply by 5 and we get 26 65/100 cups of fruit for 5 smoothies. So make sure you have this down. Pause the video if you need to. And now you're going to complete page 4 and 5 on your own. Once you finish both pages, come back to the video for page 6. All right, so page number 6, you are going to pause the video and complete our common misconception problem and our closing problem. So complete both of these. Once you finish both, come back to the video. All right, so we are going to go over the common misconception problem at the top, but we're not going to go over the closing problem. So this problem is trying to figure out if you can realize the order to divide to find our unit cost. So Cora says you should do slices divided by money, but Tim says you should do money divided by slices. So it wants to know who is correct and then the correct answer. So Tim is correct. If we are trying to figure out the price for 11 slices, slices should be our denominator when we divide. And then you should have gotten $36.41 for 11 slices. So I'll let you pause the video, finish checking your work. Once you're done checking your work, come back to the video. All right, so to close out today, we're going to answer our 3 debrief questions. In your own words, what did you learn today? How much effort did you put into class? Rate yourself 1 through 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. Explain. And then, what do you think is a common misconception or a common mistake that a student might make when learning about rates? So pause the video and complete these 3 problems. We have one more thing left. The very last thing for today, you're going to flip back to page number 1. Once you get to page 1, I want you to reread our learning targets and then rate yourself again. Now that you got all this practice in, how confident are you feeling? 1 is the least confidence, 5 is the most confident. Thank you for joining us today at Middle Math Academy. Once again, we have 5 levels of challenge for every topic. So if you're looking for levels 1 through 4, feel free to check out rates 1 through 4. Have a wonderful day.